on a private jet owned by Sheldon Adelson. That's the Adelson saying, F you. We work for Israel, not for America. We're going to take the worst traitor you've ever had and celebrate him. We're going to give him a hero's welcome.
I don't understand that. That is not in my personal range of like emotions. That's like, you won. Got it. Okay, great. You know, you're getting what you want. Okay. But that's like if you're playing tennis with someone and you crush them in tennis, rather than going up and shake hands, you know, good game. That's what I was forced to do as a child. You leap across that and like beat him to death with a racket. What is that impulse? I think it's the scariest thing I've ever seen.
They're going for full intimidation, right?
But why?
Because they lost the American people. We're gone. So look, Tucker, you're arguably the biggest show in the right wing, right? And you certainly were on Fox, and you have the numbers to back it up now, right? We're arguably the biggest show on the left. This is you could argue that it's the heads of the families getting together on behalf of the American people, saying the right and the left. And then, by the way, we can bring in any independents. You could bring in Tim Dillon, anyone else, and they will say the same thing. Enough. Yeah. We have no hatred in our hearts, okay?
I don't.
But enough. So not another dollar, and we're done with you guys. And hey, good luck. Good luck with Iran, right? But I don't have to spend $1 trillion fighting your war for you in Iran. Agree. I don't. And what if, look, and you know what they're doing, guys?
Pull back. Like, this is so unhealthy, this relationship. Pull back. We both regain our sovereignty. Israel doesn't have sovereignty exactly either. I mean, I know you could debate what sovereignty means, but they're totally dependent on the United States. That's not good. How's that good for Israel? And so, like, let's just become normal countries again and then be friends. That seems like a good outcome to me.
Yeah, by the way, it's a terrific outcome for Israel. Right. So now when you total it all together, probably around $350 billion that they've taken from us, and $8 trillion in wars we did for them. Take the win and go. Like, it's time to take the winnings off the table. I feel that. Right. So if you say, no, I want another $300 billion. I want another $100 billion. I want you to pay for another war, and I'm going to take more of
And Gaza. You can't have the First Amendment anymore because you're not allowed to criticize me.
Yeah.
Okay. That's when I say, I'm not participating in this. Totally happy to go to jail for it. I don't care. I'm never going to participate in any effort by a foreign power or our own government to limit my birthright.
So, Tucker, let's talk about that, because there's so many things that Israel does that I'm not sure people are aware of. And why are they not aware of it? Because establishment media not only doesn't report on it, but actively covers it up. Right. And if you dare report on it, they'll call you names and try to ruin your career. Okay. So what have they done? First of all, the First Amendment is sacrosanct. So no, there is no exception to the First Amendment for Israel. And by the way, if you say there should be, you're trying to destroy our Constitution. Okay. So no, we're not going to let you destroy our Constitution. So no, nobody should be arrested on a college campus for writing an op-ed against Israel, an editorial saying that they should be sanctioned. That's all. That's what that Turkish PhD student wrote. And they're like, that's it. Arrest her. What do you mean arrest her for her speech? What does that mean? And now, as I said, they're targeting American workers, trying to get them fired. The lady who put both of us on a list for, anti-Semite of the year, whatever, she went and gave a speech about, and by the way, everyone could look up every fact I'm saying. They can go find the videos for themselves, and they should spread it all over the internet. And she's on there going, we're going to find any American that opposes us, and we're going to try to ruin their lives. She said it. She's like, we're going to make sure they never get a job. They never get a wife, a husband. We're going to go after their families. I'm like, you're saying it out loud. You're saying it out loud, right?
You don't believe in blood guilt in this country, period. Yeah. I mean, that's why your family was able to move from Turkey and you wound up close friends with an Armenian because you're not responsible for what your ancestors did. That is a core American value.
Exactly. So then there's 31 states, I believe. Again, look it up. Maybe it's 30, maybe it's 29. God bless. But about that area that have passed laws saying you're not allowed to boycott or divest or sanction Israel. And if you're an American company that does that, we're going to take away your contracts from the state governments. You will be punished severely, financially, your family, your business, etc., if you dare to disagree with Israel. What the fuck kind of law is that? And by the way, that's a lot of Democratic governors and a lot of Republican governors. If your governor is saying you must serve Israel, and if you dare to defy Israel, I'm going to take away your living, and I'm going to take away American government contracts from you, you should be livid about that.
Is there any law in the United States that you've heard of that says if you criticize the U.S. government, our Constitution, desecrate our flag? Like, I don't think there's any penalty ever for attacking the United States, and I'm not saying there should be, of course. But then how can there be penalties for disagreeing with a foreign country? You can say whatever you want about America, whatever you want, and people do, and I'm glad you can. But the second you're critical of Benjamin Netanyahu, you get punished by the U.S. government?
That's insane.
But that's the state of play. I don't think it's an exaggeration, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not. Again, Mad Lib it. Put in any other country.
But even your own country, it's totally fine.
Yeah, you can criticize America all day long.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You can call for sanctions of America. You can call for boycotting America. You can call for you want to go after the Portuguese, okay? Imagine if they said you're allowed to criticize every country on earth, including your own, except Portugal. Why? Why except Portugal, right? But if you say why except Israel, anti-Semite.
Yeah.
And why do they say anti-Semite? It's to eliminate every voice of opposition to Israel in American conversation.
Are you ready for the consequences of this, though? I mean, you're a business owner, you're a father.
Yeah.
I'm not being melodramatic. I never talk about this stuff. I'm not going to now, but I'm just, let's be real. Like, the reason people don't say obvious non-hateful things like you shouldn't be prevented from criticizing a foreign country in your own country. The reason they don't even say that is because they know what the real consequence, not a joke consequences. These are not people who are kidding.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with that? Like, why'd you decide to do this? You don't need to do this.
Yeah. So we've already dealt with a lot of consequences, right?
Yeah.
And so, first of all, they tell folks don't do business with the Young Turks, or our.
You know that?
Yeah, I definitely know that. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
And our network is called TYT. We got a 24-hour channel in all these places, everywhere but cable. And they say don't do sales, don't do investments, don't do anything because they're anti-Semites. Okay, so take away their money, and make sure that they don't survive. And then they do propaganda to the audience. That's less effective, but for a while it was effective. They're hateful people. They say they're on the left, but they they're bigots and they're this and they're that. And then every kind of attack against me. But the established media always hated me.
Why?
Because I'm populist left and they despise populism. So
they certainly do.
Yeah.
Why do they despise populism, do you think?
Because it's against the status quo. It's for change.
Yeah.
And if you're at the top, you don't want anything to change. They don't want to rock the boat because it's their boat.
That's why they murdered Huey Long. Populism has a pretty long and very violent history in the United States, reaction to it. You just get killed.
So do we get death threats all the time? Right. Do we get threats of different sorts all the time? And if let's say that the Iranian government was threatening to kill me, or their supporters were threatening to kill me or my family, and they were doing all these attacks against our business, people would be, I think, outraged, right? And Jake Tapper would love to talk about the Iranians interfering with an American company and threatening Americans. We should do something about Iran, right? Israel does it. Shut up, you anti-Semite.
Oh, Jake Tapper hasn't defended you?
Jake Tapper's going to write a book one day. It turns out we were the problem. No one could have seen it coming. No, we see it now, Jake. You're the problem. Okay. And so this whole defense of Israel, over the top defense of Israel, is absurd. It's insane, while pretending to be objective. And they actively covering up the news. Here, let's do more.
But why get involved?
Because I can't help it. I can't help but be free. And that's why I love this country. That's why it's just kind of made for me. Uniquely wonderful country for me and my personality. And I can't bow. I just can't do it.
I was on an airplane probably 20, 25 years ago with James Carville, who was my co-host at CNN, and, a great guy in some ways. A great guy, but very smart. And I said something about Israel, some humiliation. They were shooting into the Church of the Nativity, murdering a bell ringer. So I was like, I don't want to fight about Israel. I never have wanted to. But I said, that is just too much. I mean, whatever it was at the moment. And he goes, I'll never forget this. He goes, you watch kids get into college. I was like, I guess. I had little kids, a lot of them. And he goes, then you'll shut up. I was like, you think that would affect my kids' ability to get into college? I'd never even thought of that before. Of course. Then you'll shut up. Quote. That's a verbatim quote. You want your kids to get into college and you'll shut up. And to my shame, I guess, I did kind of shut up for like 20 years. It's like, I don't want to deal with this at all. I've got all kinds of things I'm interested in. I'm not that interested in Israel. Love Jerusalem, but like, I don't want to get involved. So I'm not trying to be melodramatic, but that's real. And did you ever have a moment where you're like, maybe I just ignore it. Let it slide.
Yeah. No. And so, Tucker, it happened to me. So, there's a private school in LA. It actually happened to Anna too in two different ways. So, and we applied for my son to get into that private school. And one of my nephews happens to work as a volunteer in that school. And someone at admission told him that my son's application was going to be hurt because of his dad's positions on Israel.
Actually? They
actually said that out loud.
That's why the Israelis have been happy to murder tens of thousands of children in Gaza, because they believe in blood guilt. That's the truth. They say it out loud. Amalek, we believe in blood guilt. Like, the children are responsible for the sins of their parents. So we're going to kill them or not let them into the school. And we face this a lot in my family. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's a ramification for us personally. And as you know, Anna's husband is a coach at another private school, and they try to get him fired. And they demanded like some sort of Maoist apology where he denounces his own wife and calls her an anti-Semite publicly. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do it.
His own wife.
Yeah. They're like, you must denounce your own wife. Otherwise, we don't feel safe. Okay. What is that? And so
we don't feel safe. You're threatening to wreck my family, but you're the one who doesn't feel safe.
Because it's always projection. They're always the victims. So like, why do I say Jake Tapper? Like, Jake is just representative of the mainstream media overall. Israel keeps taking more and more land. You could see it on a map. They just took 53% of Gaza, and Jake and the rest go self-defense. No, but wait a minute, brother. I can see the map. Israel is growing. They say they want greater Israel. They're doing greater Israel. They're the ones that killed the Palestinians and then took their land. And Jake goes, no, don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe your lying ears. Israel is the victim. They're always the victim. They're going to fire you, but they're the victim.
Work for? Like, why would you? That's absurd. Why would you say something like that? What is your mission?
Okay. And I challenge Jake. I challenge all of cable news anchors. So why don't you talk about, for example, one of hundreds of things that we've mentioned here, but another one is 9 Americans killed in Israel over the last 3 years. 9 Americans killed not accidentally, but by Israeli settlers or the IDF. Murder.
Actually?
You know how much?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So sorry.
You know how many consequences there's been? 0. Our government does not ask for them to be arrested. What do you mean? An American citizen is killed?
What about Mike Huckabee? He's the American ambassador.
Who just met with Jonathan Pollard, the traitor, in the U.S. embassy without telling the CIA or Donald Trump. Mike Huckabee's not our ambassador. He's their ambassador.
I know.
Okay.
It's sad to see a man so degraded.
Yeah. So where's our justice for the 9 Americans killed? Are we going to even ask for justice? Or is Israel literally above the law? They can kill Americans and totally get away with it. Our government won't even ask for redress, right?
Well, I think we know that's true already.
Oh, but it's a fact. It's not disputable. And then you got Tom Alexandrovich. So he's the guy who was an Israeli cybersecurity official, goes to Vegas and looks to rape an American girl, right? So he's like, oh, this is a great opportunity for basically pedophile tourism. I'll go to America, and I know as an Israeli, I won't be held accountable. So he gets caught in a sting operation. Got him. Okay, good. Gets caught with 8 other Americans who were also involved in that operation. The 8 Americans are in jail right now in Nevada. Alexandrovich back to Israel. Free ride.
How?
But wait, you can't say that the Americans who did something terrible should be in prison. Great, wonderful, totally agree. But the Israeli is allowed to do it. And he can rape any American girl he wants here, and he gets a free ride back to Israel. No. So right now, he's technically under arrest, but our government isn't doing anything to try to get him back. No, we want him extradited.
But what about Mike Huckabee? Is he brokering an extradition? Because he tried to rape an American girl, you say.
That's a fact. No, Mike Huckabee is not doing anything. So the Americans killed, no consequences. Americans.
Did Mike Huckabee complain about the you said 9 Americans have been killed?
Yes.
Did Huckabee say anything about it?
Not to my knowledge. If he said anything, it's been incredibly quiet. Okay. And hey, Mike Huckabee, if you want to prove me wrong, get out there and fight for it. Say, God damn it, they killed 9 Americans and I'll fight like hell. Forget tomorrow. Forget yesterday. Do focus on tomorrow. Go get him, Ambassador Huckabee. Let's see what you got. Demand that they extradite Alexandrovich back to Nevada where he faces consequences like the other people who were caught. Where are you? Where are you? I mean, this happens over and over again through since Israel has been formed. Robert Maxwell stole our nuclear secrets. The worst possible thing you could do. We didn't even arrest him. And when I looked into why didn't we arrest Robert Maxwell? Because it would have caused an international incident that embarrassed Israel. Well, they should be embarrassed. They stole our nuclear secrets when they were pretending to be our allies. They should be deeply, deeply embarrassed. No. Not only was Robert Maxwell not arrested, he was allowed to buy textbooks in America for that go into our kids' schools. We're letting a traitor like that, a guy, he wasn't American, but he was a British citizen. He was and he lived here, he lived there. And we're letting him buy the textbooks that go into our kids' schools after he stole our nuclear secrets. And eventually got a state funeral. Again, heroes welcome in Israel. Congratulations. Are we ever going to stand up for this country? So how about the spies we caught after 9/11? Okay, put aside whether they knew, didn't know what their activity was, but we rounded up dozens and dozens of Israeli spies. Okay, great job, FBI, CIA, whoever did it. Fantastic, really proud of you. And then we let them go back to Israel. Is that a thing we do? If we catch a Russian spy or an Iranian spy or a Dutch spy, do we go, oh, you're free to go? Aren't we supposed to arrest them and keep them in prison? But when it comes to Israel, there are no laws, there are no rules. They're allowed to do anything you want. And if you object, Jake Tapper comes out and calls you an anti-Semite.
So a year ago this week, the new president, right after inauguration, issued an executive order declaring that all files related to the Kennedy assassination, MLK, and Bobby Kennedy's assassination had to be released. And they haven't all been, unfortunately. But in tranches of documents that have been released in the last 12 months, we've seen again and again references to Israel have been, and there are a lot of references to Israel in the files around the Kennedy assassination, interestingly, have all been redacted. All been redacted for 62 years, 63 years. It's like, what? I don't understand. Like, why would that be? Why are there 2 monuments to Jim Angleton in Israel? The number 2 at CIA. I think it's all very, very odd. And you hear people complain about conspiracy theories, and I'm definitely against conspiratorial thinking because it drives you crazy. On the other hand, in the absence of transparency, that stuff grows like algae. I mean, what do you think? If you don't tell people the truth, like, what are they supposed to think? They're going to come up with all kinds of theories. Why would you redact references to Israel in the Kennedy files for 6 decades? Like, what is that?
That's almost an admission. So, like, I didn't know.
It's very odd. I'll say that.
So I didn't know that until recently. And again, establishment media never talks about these things. And again, it's not just about Israel. So, for example, on 9/11, we're redacting references to the Saudis.
Oh, I know.
Why? So they say, well, they're our allies. Well, if they're our allies, then maybe they shouldn't have had a hand in 9/11, right? They didn't have a hand in 9/11. Okay, great. Then show me the redacted part. No, I won't show you the redacted part. Okay, now this is weird. Now this is our government working for other governments. And what happened after 9/11? We rounded up all the bin Ladens. Yes, there were bin Ladens in America. And we rounded up all the Israeli spies. And yes, there was tons and tons of Israeli spies in America.
Following the 19 hijackers around the country.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what did we do? We rounded them up. Oh, great. We got them. And we released them back to Saudi Arabia and Israel.
Yeah.
No, that's our
government. And then
government.
we invade Iraq.
Yeah.
Which had nothing to do with it. And increased domestic police powers to the point where the country's not recognizable from what it was on September 10th, 2001. So
that's our government working for other governments.
Oh, I'm aware.
I can't stand it. So which leads us to Epstein. Okay, so here's another one. Drop site news has proven definitively that, in my opinion, and we'll talk about the evidence, that Epstein worked for an intelligence agency, and almost certainly Mossad.
Yeah.
Okay. And almost certainly the CIA knew it.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now what's the evidence? It's overwhelming. First of all, in all the emails, he is looking to help one country. No, it's not Finland. And no, it's not America. It's Israel. So how do we get cyber weapons to Israel? How do we get America to bomb Syria? How do we get America to bomb Iran? Okay. Ehud Barak, former prime minister of Israel, I can set up a meeting with you with Putin. Wait, Epstein is so powerful, he can set up meetings that the former prime minister of Israel can't. He can call Putin anytime and get someone a meeting. Then we find out that he was in the middle of the Iran-Contra affair. He was the one switching the planes out. How many civilians were involved in the Iran-Contra affair? Easy answer, 0. There are no civilians involved in Iran-Contra. Everyone was intelligence, okay? So this guy switching out planes in the middle of Iran-Contra is obviously intelligence, and that's Jeffrey Epstein, okay? So Jeffrey Epstein was much more powerful than we realized. He could set up a meeting with almost any world leader. He could get almost anyone into the White House. Again, Ehud Barak has trouble getting into the White House. Epstein makes a call, boom, he's in the White House. Israeli spy stays over at Epstein's house. There's just no question about it. He is definitely intelligence, and in every turn, he's looking to help one country, and it's Israel. American media says, shut up. No. Jeffrey Epstein, New York Times has a story about how he's like a Forrest Gump. He just tripped over the money. And oh God, golly gee, he just happened to be an savvy investor. And they did nothing to see here. Now, Drop Site News already showed it. Why wouldn't you try to build on that? Why wouldn't you cover that? Is that not an interesting story? That
I think it qualifies. I don't understand. I'm not pretending to understand it, but it's certainly interesting.
It's certainly interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, and by the way,
and it seems significant too.
Yeah. If you're the New York Times or your JTAP or your CNN, disprove it. I don't want to believe something that's wrong. So show me, oh no, Drop Site News got it wrong. Those emails are wrong. It turns out he was working for Sweden. Okay. Or no one. Fine. But they don't do that. They don't disprove it. They don't prove it. They don't report on it. They never, ever talk about it. That is super weird. Super weird.
Well, speaking of an admission of guilt, yeah.
Yeah, because that is the most interesting story in a long, long time. Obviously, American people are captivated by it.
Yes.
Is the New York Times and CNN claiming that they're not captivated by it? No, they obviously are, right? And they report about it as it affects Trump all the time. Trump, right? I'm not saying that Trump didn't know Epstein. He did. I'm not saying they weren't great friends. They were, right? But
it's a bigger story, I think we can say.
It's a bigger story than just Trump.
Yes, I think it is.
Right? But whenever it comes to Trump, they're like, yes, it was Trump. Why? Magic. You don't want to have people look here. This is where the real action is. So get them to look here.
Yes, right? It's three-card Monte.
Yes, it's all an illusion. Yes. So it's unconscionable not to talk about Epstein's connections to intelligence, including Mossad and including the CIA.
For sure. And British intelligence and French. And what was this? I mean, you get the sense that it reveals the superstructure beneath. It gives you a glimpse into how power is exercised globally, because it is global, right? And there's so much that I know a lot about the Epstein story, and I'm still totally ignorant about what that was. I really don't understand it, but it's obvious it's a third rail for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why right now there's a bit of a revolution going on.
Do you think there is?
There is, yeah. And so, again, another reason why they hate you so much, because the left wing was already gone, 92% disapproving of the actions of Israel in Gaza. And our politicians already gave us the middle finger and said, no, we'll lose this election rather than defy Israel. We'll lose Michigan. We'll lose swing states. We don't care. We serve Israel loyally. Okay. Now, there's a bunch of Democrats that are against that. Ro Khanna being the leading guy, saying, no, I want to see the Epstein files. No, I think Palestine should exist. I don't know why everybody talks about Israel should be allowed to exist. Good news, they do, right? And they have nukes and they have Iron Dome that nobody has. They're about as safe a country as you could find on planet Earth. No one else has Iron Dome. Only a handful of countries have nukes. They have a better military than the rest of the Middle East combined. They're perfectly safe. Then you say, okay, you're good. You exist. We're all in favor of that. Now Palestine should exist. They're like, how dare you anti-Semite? No. You're the bigot. You're the bigot saying that another people should not have freedom. They've kept those people enslaved, 5.5 million Palestinians, for 58 years. And then they brag, oh, Israel's the best democracy and the only democracy in the Middle East. Well, it's a democracy within Israel. It's a dictatorship within the occupied territories. What is happening in the occupied territories?
There's a bit of a dictatorship now in mainland Israel for Israeli Jews, too. I mean, you're not welcome to, well, first of all, they try to keep people from leaving the country, of restricted freedom of movement. And there, I mean, you get the cops at your door for saying certain things in that country. It's in many countries that's true, but it's also true there. So, like, come on now.
Yeah.
Stop lying to me.
Yeah. And so the media, they're an enormous part of the problem. So you see our politicians, both under Democratic and Republican presidents and administrations, say, no, we're not going to release the Epstein files. No, we're going to give Epstein a sweetheart deal back in 2008. And then we're going to take Alex Acosta and make him the labor secretary under Trump. Right?
That was the funniest thing that's ever happened. Didn't work very well.
Yeah. And by the way, Ghislaine Maxwell, that sounds familiar. Oh, she's the daughter of Robert Maxwell, legendary Israeli spy who stole our nuclear secrets. By the way, I don't know that that's ever been mentioned on cable news. Ever. Isn't that a super interesting fact that the main co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein, that her dad was the biggest spy Israel's ever had? Now, you could say, hey, the sins of the father are not passed on to the daughter, so that doesn't prove anything, but it's at least an interesting fact.
And it's not even the most interesting. In my opinion, the most interesting fact is Attorney General Barr covered up Epstein's murder, because he was murdered, and he covered it up as the Attorney General of the United States and said, we have to let people know this was a suicide. Like, number one rule is don't let them think it was a murder. He said that before they'd done an investigation into it. So, like, that's a cover-up by definition. You don't even know the facts, but you're reaching a conclusion and commanding everyone else reach the same conclusion. You're covering it up. And then it turns out his father, Donald Barr, got Jeff Epstein his first job teaching math at the Dalton School. He didn't even have a college degree, okay? And then got him a job at Bear Stearns. The Attorney General's father is the one who started Jeffrey Epstein's career and set him up with his friends in finance. And then his son becomes Attorney General and covers up his murder. I mean, what are the chances, Jenk? Like, what are the odds on that, do you think?
Then you combine that with the odds on the Maxwells. Then you combine that with the odds of Israeli spies and prime ministers staying at his house. And then you combine that with all the emails he's saying, I can't wait to get America to do what Israel wants.
Unlikely things happen, but we've all seen crazy things happen. It's like, oh, happenstance. And like, you know, sometimes it, you know, rolls up and you get the jackpot. I get it. That is part of life. But if it keeps happening and you keep yelling at me for noticing, I think you think I'm dumb, right?
Yeah. And so, Tucker, what I think happened
Come on now.
Yeah. They're insulting our intelligence.
You think? Yeah.
100%. And so but there's something great happening at the same time. Okay. So politicians, terrible, but now we got a little bit of rebellion on the Democratic side with Akana and a couple of guys, a little bit of rebellion on the Republican side with Tom Massey, a little bit of anti-war with Rand Paul. Marjorie Taylor Greene was great. I wanted her to stay. By the way, the one person, we had Marjorie Taylor Greene on the show a couple of times. People start yelling at me. How dare you? What are you doing? She's the enemy and stuff. And I'm like, guys, they want you to think that the other side is the enemy. They want you to
had Marjorie on your show?
Yeah.
Oh, bless you. Good.
So they want you to use all of your energy and all of your fight against other Americans.
Of course.
And so Marjorie Taylor Greene comes on, and I said, well, I had her on because she's agreeing with us. She's
right.
She's anti-war. We're anti-war. Like, I'm taking yes for an answer, right?
Amen.
They said, but did she ever do anything substantive to stand up to Israel? Yeah, actually she did. She almost single-handedly killed a boycott, divestment, and sanction bill in the House.
Yeah.
She said, no, this is taking away Americans' freedom of speech. I'm against it. And when she made a big deal out of it, it embarrassed the other Republicans because, yeah, it's against our freedom of speech.
Exactly.
Right? And so she did do something great, right?
Yeah, more than almost anyone.
Yeah. And so I still disagree with Marjorie and you on other issues, right?
But why would people that's so interesting that people would be mad at you for having her on when she's one of the only members of Congress, literally the only members who's doing the things that you have said that you believed in for a long, long time.
100%.
It's so strange.
because we've been taught by the media to hate each other and to have a tribal brain, partisan brain.
Totally true.
Right? So, because if the left and the right, the Republicans and Democrats realize that the people rigging the rules are the ones with all the wealth and power up top, that is the only force that is mighty enough to take on the ruling class, the donor class. So that is why they have to get us fighting at all times. You must hate each other. Don't look up. Whatever you do, don't look up. Hate each other. Use all your energy this way. So unfortunately, our side got taught this too. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, that's it. You can't ever talk to them. They're the bad guys, right? I'm like, are they still the bad guys if they agree with me?
Right. Let's get back. Let's define bad guy for a second.
and do I have to change my position if Tucker agrees with me? Do I have to become pro-war?
All right, let's bomb Iran now. This is too much. I can't deal with it. Some podcaster agrees with me. I'm changing my mind.
Yeah. So now Roe did something really smart, and this gets back to Marjorie in a sec. Roe took an executive order that Trump had about lowering drug prices, most favored nation status, right? If France, Germany, Japan are paying this much, we should pay that much. Yeah. Why are we financing the whole world? And that's what's happening. We're paying so much more, not than Ethiopia, but than other developed nations like Germany. And
of course, to subsidize drugs that aren't even made in this country.
Yeah.
It's so bonkers.
By the way, we subsidize them in 100 different ways.
Oh, I know.
We also, we pay for their research that goes to the universities, right?
Of course.
And then we give them the patent. What? No. That patent is worth billions, maybe trillions of dollars. And the American taxpayer paid for that research. Should we not get equity? That is how capitalism works. When we bailed out the banks, should we have not gotten equity? If a private company bailed out the banks, they would have owned the banks. Okay? That's how capitalism works.
If you don't pay your mortgage, they own your house.
Exactly.
Right.
But
it's called collateral.
Yes. But for the donor class, in that case, the pharmaceutical companies, nope, just have it for free.
Right. You outsource the risk, you privatize the reward. It's the oldest system there is and also the most immoral.
Yeah. And so the reason why the tappers of the world hate left-wing populists is because we've been pointing this out for 20 years. So when Roe does this and he goes, okay, look, the executive order, it'll get knocked down by the courts. But good news, if we turn it into a bill, it can't get knocked down by the courts. So he took the executive order verbatim, didn't change a word, okay? And said, now let's pass it as a bill. And he got 2 or 3 Republican co-sponsors. I went to the Democrats, the couple of Democrats that I know in Congress, and I was like, guys, this is beautiful. It's a layup. This is core Democratic policy. We got super lucky. Trump did an executive order doing our policies. So let's jump on Roe's bill. Nope. The only person I could convince to join Roe's bill was Marjorie Taylor Greene.
No way.
Yes.
And what did Jake Tapper weigh in on this?
So no, here's my beef, old school beef with Jake. So other than his nonstop defense of Israel, and I'm sure he'll object to that. I've slightly tweaked them from time to time. What do you mean? Okay. I'm like 12%, 11, 9, 7% against the genocide. Okay. But it's not a genocide, you anti-Semite. Okay. So I feel like Jake Tapper is looking down his nose at us every time he talks on TV. He's like, and I will tell you this, Israel had nothing to do. None of the donors had anything to do with anything, right?
I feel like I know Jake well, but I feel like he's the one who's suffering. I feel like it hasn't worked. It's the prizes that he wanted. He weren't worth having. Yeah. And he doesn't seem happy at all to me, but maybe I'm just.
So God bless his heart. I wish him nothing but happiness.
Yeah,
okay.
Me too.
But so how did it come about? So when I ran for Congress, the media lied about me in hilarious ways. Okay. So, and Jake joined in on that. So they would take out of context clips and then Jake would retweet it and without even checking I thought you were a journalist. So the New York Times said that I had a history of being anti-Muslim and never mentioned that I was born Muslim and my family's Muslim and my background's Muslim. Never mentioned it. The New York Times described me in such a vicious way that if I was a voter in that district that I was running in, I would have voted against me. Right? Because I don't want to vote for an anti-Muslim, anti-Semite, anti-everything. They painted me as like some like vicious racist right winger when I was the biggest supporter of Bernie Sanders in the primaries, right? In 2016, 2020, et cetera. So, and then they said, he had an interview with David Duke where I lit into David Duke because David Duke was saying outwardly anti-Semitic things.
Yeah.
And I called him an anti-Semite, a bigot, all these things. Because, you know me,
and also a federal informant, just to add to the list.
Yeah. And an idiot, etc. So I said all those things in the interview. I hold no holds barred at Young Turks, right? New York Times said that I agreed with David Duke that he was not a racist. And other outlets said that I brought David Duke on to share his anti-Semitic views.
No way.
Yeah. And so other journalists watched the interview. Well, they want to see how terribly anti-Semitic and racist Jink was, pretending to be a left-winger and all this. And they're like, holy shit, you guys are totally lying. The exact opposite happened in the interview. So New York Times had to do a rare correction on that one. They're like, okay, fine. All right. He was being sarcastic. Fine. Okay. But by the way, I had a PR person because it was a congressional run. They're really well connected to all these folks. They called the New York Times. They called the editor. And the editor, this is amazing. The editor told them, and I don't know why they say these things. I'm stunned that they say them out loud. But the editor told them, look, you're right. I watched the David Duke interview. We got to retract it. And you're right about the Muslims thing. You're right about the bestiality thing, which we'll get back to.
Bestiality.
Which is hilarious. That's my favorite. Hold on. So he says, but I went around and I asked, and everyone here hates Jink, and they don't want to do a correction. The best I could do was get a correction on the David Duke one, because that one's so over the top. Everyone here hates Jink. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people he asked. I don't know if he asked 3 people, 13 people. It was probably a small group that was working on that group. So, but the fact that he would say that to our PR guy is unbelievable, right? So now the bestiality one. Okay, so I do a segment on the Young Turks like over a decade ago. And I say, we had this guy, Rodell, that was having sex with horses in Tennessee. And we thought, what a bizarre, crazy story. He gave the horse an STD. Okay. We're like, Rodell, what are you doing? We're making fun of this guy. Then I really dryly, I go, you know what? If the horse is receiving it, I don't know that the horse is objecting, right? They cut the tape. And he goes, that's it. Jinx for bestiality. Okay. Now, if you keep rolling the tape, what I say next is the horse going to object? Nay. And then everybody in the studio
that's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah. And everybody laughs, but they cut that part out. Right. So New York Times made it seem like it was part of my legislative agenda.
Horse sex?
Yes. I mean, isn't that like an old Lyndon Johnson quote?
It's very much like a very I can't say it's too vulgar, but yes. And the idea was to accuse your opponent of, bestiality, not because it's true, because then he'll have to deny it and repeat it.
Yeah. And here I am denying and repeating it.
When the conversation is about bestiality, you're not winning. It doesn't matter.
So that's why they do tricks like that. And Tapper's like, retweet. Love it. Who cares? Oh, I wonder what he said next is not a thought he had in his mind, apparently. Right?
That's amazing.
So that's how they do character assassinations. Okay.
But you said at the outset that they're losing. And I do think that's like the real lesson here. So like I was at CNN with Jake, 25 years ago. And that was like a big, to us, it was in your 20s, it's like a big thing. We're at CNN. It's so great. And he stayed. And you get to 2026, it's like, who would want a job at CNN? Like, I don't think, again, the prize is worth winning. Like, you don't actually want that. Not just because it's liberal or whatever, dishonest, because like nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't mean anything anymore. Or maybe I'm just too out of it. And I think that, do you think it still means something?
No, it means very little, but in their world, that's still high status for them.
Really?
Yeah. Of course. So look, Tucker, look at our careers and how much things have changed in the last 10, 15 years.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so when I was a host on MSNBC at 6:00, back in 2011, that was highly celebrated. I mean,
oh yeah,
I instantly started winning awards and getting speeches, paid speeches, and all these amazing things that I never got online. We're the first YouTube partner channel ever. I'm the original YouTuber. And
really?
Yeah. I've gotten
The Young Turks is.
Young Turks.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What year did you start it?
So we started the show back in 2002. So we've been around 23 years. We were the original talk show for Sirius Satellite Radio. So we're the first show there. And then we went to Air America, that you remember, the liberal radio.
Very well, yeah.
And we were their morning drive. And then we went, so as part of that, we were all over radio markets throughout the country on XM, and we did great. Our ratings were terrific in different places. Then we started online video in 2005, and we're the oldest running show in internet history. We're the longest running show there is online.
That's amazing. I did not know that. That's amazing.
So that's pretty neat. We feel good about it. Now,
but there wasn't a ton of prestige attached to that. For the first 10 years, right?
Oh my God. I was mocked.
You're on the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, I was on television, so I know that I looked at on the internet, some internet show.
Yeah.
Internet.
People told us, like, why would you leave Sirius Satellite Radio to go do YouTube? Like, what are you on there with the cats playing piano?
100%. Fat kid falls off bike. Yeah.
Yeah. And I keep turning down money. At Sirius, they offered us $250,000 to not do online video. And I was like, no, online video is the future. I'm going to do online video by hook or by crook. I believe it in 1,000%. I wrote my friends an email in 1998 saying online video was going to be TV, that it was only a matter of time. Okay. So that's why we're the first YouTube partner, because I was positive not only that online video was going to win, but YouTube was going to win. And so the entire time, mainstream media is mocking us, etc. But then in 2011, I did a campaign to get on MSNBC, and our audience is amazing, best audience in the world. They sent thousands of emails to MSNBC until I finally got a meeting. My agent originally fired me. I declared my candidacy for the open position at MSNBC, and the guy who worked for us at CIA at the time was like, "This is embarrassing. You're not going to get the job. And so don't do that. It'll be very public." And I was like, "Brother, I got news for you. I wasn't going to get the job anyway." Okay.
Fair.
Right. And I'm a risk taker, and I'm a natural born rebel. So I'm going to go for it. And I believe in my audience. And they did. They got me the job there. Great news.
That's wild.
It was amazing. And then they kept watching and watching. We're like doubling the ratings of the regular host. It's unseen, unheard of. Like, if a guest host fills in and gets about 75% of the audience, that's a pretty good job.
Definitely.
Right? Yeah, that's a nice job. I'm getting 125, 150 on some super rare occasions, got 200%. So doubling the audience, but 125, 150% of the regular hosts on a consistent basis, to the point where a supervising producer came in, closed the door on a day we had great ratings, and Jenk, you got to bring it down. I said, why?
Bring it down. Stop rating so high.
He said, because the other hosts won't want you to fill in for them.
That is a real thing. Yeah.
That's a real thing.
Oh, I know. Right.
And so
I never felt that way. I'm not competitive, but there were a lot of people would not have you sit in as that actually happened to me. A very famous host stopped having me because I did decent numbers. Yeah, they don't want that. I get it, you know,
but good news, the ratings were so good, I got the job anyway. I'm on there for 6 months, and then but in the middle, I kept criticizing the Democrats, and I kept criticizing Obama from the left, not from the right, but from the left. They're like, shh, remember who the home team is.
Yeah.
Remember who the home team is.
That's right.
Right. And I'm like, yeah, the home team's the audience. That's why I have higher ratings than you've ever had at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And they made me an offer that they thought I couldn't refuse, which was, you know what, we're going to move you down to the weekends, even though you have the best ratings we've had. And by the way, I beat Fox in 18 to 34. I was the only MSNBC show to beat Fox in any demographic. Okay. And they're like, we're moving you down on the weekends. Why? They won't say it, but Phil did say it earlier he had pulled me into his office.
This is Phil Griffin, the then president.
Yeah. Of MSNBC. And he said, I was in Washington, and they're not happy with your tone.
Washington's not happy? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What? It's like a movie.
It is. It's like, but it's a B-rate movie.
I know.
I'm like, why?
The reason I believe you, I work for Phil Griffin, so I know who I will always like, but he's not a genius at all. And so he says true things out loud because he doesn't sort of know. I mean, I can literally picture him saying, Jenka, Washington's not happy.
Yeah. He went further. He said, outsiders are cool and they wear leather jackets and ride motorcycles. Okay, but we're NBC. We're not outsiders. We're insiders. I'm like, Phil, this is a dumb speech. Like, I'm thinking this is a dumb speech. And I'm the very last guy on earth you should be giving this speech to, right? So that's why he offered to double my salary when he said move to the weekends. Because the only way you stay on cable news is if you play ball.
Of course.
Right? And at some point, apparently they were not happy with you.
Apparently.
And
that was the message I received, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no one ever explained it, but I didn't care.
Now, when I said no to MSNBC and when you came off of Fox, in their minds, we were gone. Yeah. We were dead. We didn't exist anymore. But yet here we are.
No, I think that I'm thankful to God all the time for that. But no, I totally agree. And part of it's the technology, and I just wasn't farsighted or broad-minded enough to see it early at all. I mean, I was busy scrambling up the greasy pole of television, and I just didn't see it. You know, I made fun of Rogan. I've told Rogan this. I made fun of Rogan. Oh, a podcast. Oh, I'm sure a lot of people listen to that. Or the internet. I was like, the internet, please. So you saw it. I wish I had seen it. I didn't. But I also think it's not just technology. It's a way of thinking. And it's super obvious. I wrote a part of a book on this once that your opening line is the truest thing. Some of this is real. A lot of it is fake. Go fight amongst yourselves while we loot the place. Like, that is true.
Yeah. So what they do is they eventually remove anyone who objects to the system.
Exactly.
Right. So another good example is Dylan Ratigan. So Dylan Ratigan was
always admired Dylan Ratigan.
Yeah. He was at CNBC, started their two most successful shows, biggest, most successful anchor they've ever had. But after 2008 crash, he said it was the banks, because it was the banks.
How is that controversial?
And CNBC had to take him off the air.
Who else was it?
Who else was it?
The borrowers? It's the borrowers' fault? Who wrote the loans? The banks.
So that's how the ecosystem works. Those banks pay the politicians. By the way, number one donor to Hope and Change Obama in 2008 were the banks. Okay. So then they get a giant bailout and their bonuses are paid. And with some of those winnings, they funnel the money back to the politicians. And then how do they control media? Well, the banks are also huge advertisers.
Wait, but is that true? I mean, okay, so 2008 happens, the global financial crisis totally changed the world forever. And there's not a single human being, honest person, who could say it wasn't the banks. I mean, what else would it be if it wasn't the banks? It was only the banks. It was the banks by definition. And he actually got taken off the air for saying that? Because if you can't say that, then you can't acknowledge like daylight or gravity.
Yeah, because
but that's true. That's really what happened.
That's definitely what happened. Yes, and
it's pretty wild.
They said it was the borrowers. They did.
It was the borrowers.
Yes, it was their fault. They were being irresponsible. They shouldn't have borrowed so much.
They wrote their own loans. Is that the allegation?
I mean, why did
some housekeeper in Clark County, Nevada, was writing bad loans to herself?
And golly gee, we couldn't tell because we didn't do any due diligence on that loan. Well, why didn't you do any due diligence on that loan? Right?
Because they didn't care.
And because they were using it for collateralized debt obligations, and leveraging it up 100 to 1 and gambling with our money.
They weren't actually mortgages; they were financial instruments.
Exactly.
And we thought we were taking bank loans. They were loaning that money out at interest, and then we're getting the equity in the house or whatever. That was not what it was.
And Dylan talks about how in the beginning we used to do wealth creation, right? Now mainly it's wealth extraction.
Yeah, I've noticed.
And so those donors having bought Congress and the media are sitting there and extracting as much from us as humanly possible. The oil companies are very successful, some of the top companies in the world, very, very profitable. We give them $35 billion in subsidies every year. Why?
I don't know.
Why is the average person working their ass off in Kansas, barely making, the rent or the mortgage, have to give money to these incredibly profitable companies to incentivize oil drilling we're here? Do they need further incentive? I thought capitalism was the incentive. I thought profit was the incentive. Why do I have to further incentivize oil companies to do their jobs?
That's a good point. So it's determined by the market price of oil, the per barrel price of oil, which is set in international markets. No individual controls that. And so when it's profitable to drill, for oil or gas, they do, and when it's not, they don't. Like that's
Period.
called the market, right?
Yeah, and here's another thing that's never corrected on cable news, even though it would be against Trump, so they have every reason to publicize this. So when we invade Venezuela or we attack Venezuela, and now we're getting their oil, right? But wait, who's we? The American people don't get the oil of Venezuela. It has nothing to do with the American people. No, ExxonMobil gets a contract. Chevron gets a contract with Venezuela. They get the oil. They get the profits. They sell it on the world market, not just the American market at all. They have no obligation. If they want, they don't have to sell Americans a single ounce of that oil because it is their oil, not our oil. And why does that even matter? Because ExxonMobil otherwise would have had to pay a higher price to get Venezuelan oil. It's not like they couldn't. They could just make a deal with Venezuela, but they chose not to because they thought it would be too expensive. So instead, we have to start a war. We have to pay for that war. And then we pay oil subsidies on top for the oil companies, and they get the oil. They settle on the world markets. It doesn't lower our prices at all. And so what did we get out of this?
Well, so the plan on this, and who knows how it'll work out, I don't know. But the plan is for the administration to negotiate the oil contracts and for the money to go to the administration and then to be doled out to the Treasury and then the companies. That's the stated plan. I happened to be there the other day when they were talking about it.
So is the plan to take a percentage of the Venezuelan oil and just give it to America?
Yes.
That is unprecedented.
That's the stated plan. I'm not an expert. I'm not, an energy person. I'm interested, but I'm not an expert. I don't speak Spanish. Like I have a lot of ignorance. And of course I can't see the future, but yes, that's the stated plan. That's what Trump said I was having lunch with Trump and he's like, oh, come to the oil meeting. And like, I don't, it's not my world. So I was like, okay. So I go up there and all these heads of the big oil companies, including Exxon, they didn't seem too enthusiastic about it, but we'll see. And I just happened to be sitting in the room totally by accident. I mean, literally by accident because he's asked me to come. And he's telling him, he's like, no. This is for our country and you'll get a cut that I will decide. I can just tell you what I saw.
So that's not how it should work, right? Because when you say to a different country, we're going to come and we're going to take your natural resources and we're just going to take a certain amount for us, period. Sad day for you. What'll happen is an insurgency. People will be mad about that.
Well, that's the concern. I mean, and the other point that he made, again, I don't know where this is going. I am literally praying for stability in Venezuela and around the world. I hate the chaos. I hate the chaos. And Israel unleashes so much. We unleash so much. It's just the worst thing that we do. But the idea is that they have big time cash shortages. You have to pay the military. You have to pay the government workers. You have to make sure inflation doesn't get out of control. The currency doesn't collapse, et cetera, et cetera. And that oil profits will go to Venezuela. This is the stated aim to keep the country from falling apart and to prevent insurgencies, which they're afraid of. Because then, how is that a win?
Yeah. So to say that I'm enormously skeptical of it is
I get it. I get it.
And so, in Iraq, we didn't get any of the oil. The oil companies got it, and it didn't help us at all.
Trump's been mad about it ever since. Yeah.
We called a lot of the Latin American countries banana republics. Why? We did coups on behalf of banana companies. Right. It's not their fault. It's our fault. Our banana. Did we get the bananas? No. Dole got the bananas.
Exactly.
They sold them at the same exact price. They just had a higher profit margin.
Right.
We literally attack countries for Halliburton's profit, for Dole, the food company's profits. So who is we? Who is the American people, right? And when do we ever get represented?
I could not. I vehemently agree. And the space between intent and reality is often very wide. So you don't know what's going to happen, but. The only thing that I learned, and didn't go to Washington to talk about Venezuela, but I just happened to see this. The main thing that I learned is what's being described is a brand new system. And whether that'll happen, a lot of powerful forces don't want it to happen, but that's what is being described is a totally new arrangement. We'll see.
Yeah. So look, my sense of it is when you go and you attack other countries, our military is amazing. Best in the world, best that's ever been created, right?
Yep.
So that was an amazing mission that they did in Venezuela and an amazing one they did in Iran. But you do 3 or 4 of those and you're going to get burned. because it's just a matter of chances.
I think that's right. And it's just rolling dice. No, I agree with everything that you said. And just in general, it's good to know your limits. I think humility is important. I think you can really get hurt. I've gotten hurt in my life because I imagined I had powers I didn't have. Like, I think it's a very male thing. I could do that.
Yeah. And so, guys, I just want the audience to know, once we lose some men, right? Like, I don't know where it's going to happen. I don't know if it's in Venezuela, Iran, or somewhere else.
Right.
But somebody's going to get shot down. We're going to lose 12, 13 guys, whatever's going to happen, right? Let's, don't panic. Don't let them sheep herd you into saying, well, that means we got to put more troops in.
I agree with that.
Right. Now we got to get revenge. So then, now we lost 100 guys. Now we got to dig in even more and more and more so that, whether it's ExxonMobil or Israel or whoever's profiting off of it.
I could not agree more, because you open yourself up to manipulation and false flags. And we've seen many, many false flags. I would say there are a bunch of things about the Reagan record I would not defend. I don't think anyone should defend. But in October of 83, we had this horrible barracks bombing. The Marine barracks killed over 200 men, Marines. Horrible, truly horrible bombing. And Reagan did not invade Lebanon. It happened in Beirut. He did not invade. I mean, and people were really on him. Like, you're going to let those murders go unavenged? And he said, I don't think it's wise. He wasn't always wise, but in this case, I think he was wise. He didn't invade Beirut. We could have.
I voted I used to be Republican growing up.
Yeah.
And the last Republican I voted for was George H.W. Bush. And so why did I vote for him? Because I thought he did something very principled. He said, look, Iraq invaded Kuwait.
Yeah.
And we can't have that. They're an ally and they're a sovereign country. And if sovereign countries attack one another, there'll be no end to it.
Right.
Okay. So then they said, okay, and I like that. I like the first Persian Gulf War. In fact, at college, I did a pro-war rally. Okay.
Actually,
at Penn. Yes. I got on Fox for it, and it debated a anti-war guy in Philadelphia over it. Okay. So
is that tape available?
Yeah, it's my first TV appearance.
What year was that?
That must have been 91, 92. Yeah, in that
amazing.
Ballpark. Yeah. And so, look, I don't think I'd do a pro-war rally today.
Probably not. Yeah.
Right? And people change. And that's what's...
We've also had an awful lot of war.
Right.
We've had an awful lot of war from 1991 or 2 to present. I don't know how many wars. In 35 years, we've had a lot of wars.
Yeah.
And at that point, we didn't. We left Vietnam in 1975. And we did Grenada. But we didn't really have a lot of wars between Vietnam and... Right? So people had a different memory.
Yeah. And so... First of all, one of the things that we emphasize on Young Turks is open hearts, open minds.
Amen.
And so, one of the things I tell the audience is, if I didn't believe in open minds, I would have stayed a Republican. So, right. So you gotta be thinking. You gotta be looking at new evidence, data. So in that case, it was actually not a bad war. I mean, wars are always terrible, but the Persian Gulf War, we go in, it's very limited. We free Kuwait and we get the hell out.
Yes.
And the decision I liked the most was he did not go into Iraq. At the time, Israel and others are go into Iraq.
They were mad that we didn't go.
Yeah. And the guy who held the line was Dick Cheney, of all people. He was the Secretary of Defense. Correct. And he said, no, it makes no strategic sense for America to go into Iraq. What are we going to do with it? Right? And that was really prescient and right. And it's amazing what happens to people. And I don't know what happened to Dick Cheney. But he then turns around, just some small amount of time later, working for George W. Bush, and he says, we got to go into Iraq. We got to go into Iraq. And then, of course, Halliburton makes a tremendous profit. Israel is super happy. All the defense contractors are super happy. We think that Iraq was a waste. We lost trillions of dollars. We lost thousands of men, Americans, that died on foreign soil.
Or were destroyed, for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
I mean, you must know some. I
absolutely.
Sure do. Yeah.
But it wasn't a loss for the donor class. For the donor class, they won. They won spectacularly. Defense contractors, oil companies, the speculators on Wall Street, they all literally made a killing, right? And at the time, Israel was saying, that's our number one enemy. You have to attack Iraq. Yep. So it's the whole puzzle. It's not just one thing.
And there's another piece to it, which is there's no power like the power to end human life. There's a thrill that people derive in being able to extinguish another person's life because it's a godlike power, and I've certainly seen it a lot. people just like, not because they're evil or because they hate, but they're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so powerful. It's unbelievable. I can literally kill someone and it's allowed. Boy, that is addictive. And the more you do it, the more you like it.
Yeah, I'm worried about it. And so, look, back to hope. So back then, the media was terrible. And 69% of Americans thought that Saddam Hussein had personally attacked us on 9/11.
Man.
Now, if I thought Saddam attacked us
Thanks,
on 9/11.
Steve Hayes. Yeah.
Yeah. If I thought that, I would be for attacking Iraq. I mean, attacking us on 9/11 was terrible, right? We need to make sure that never happens again. There needs to be consequences.
Is that true? 69% of Americans thought that?
Yes.
That's
At the
crazy.
time of the invasion, 7 out of 10. Why? Because mainstream media systematically lied to them.
Yes.
They implicitly lied. They would have Dick Cheney come on and say, Iraq is from the same general region as Al-Qaeda. Now, wait a minute. If you were a journalist, you would say, but sir, Iraq is opposed to Al-Qaeda. They execute Al-Qaeda on the spot, right? But they didn't say that. And Meet the Press, Tim Russert didn't say it when Dick Cheney said that.
No, I interviewed Cheney during that period too. I'm embarrassed to say he probably said it to me. I don't even remember, but that's so bad. Ugh.
The two main things they kept saying, Tucker, and Young Turks is so old, we were on the air at the time, online, okay? And in that case, the radio, okay? And so we were only 2 shows against the Iraq War, Young Turks and Democracy Now!, okay? And so we're national. And we're going, no, they didn't attack us. And everybody in media is like, shut up.
Unpatriotic,
okay?
yeah.
Unpatriotic, support the troops. I'm like, yeah, I support the troops. I don't want them to die. And for no reason when they didn't attack us.
Yeah.
And the second thing was weapons of mass destruction. And where do we get the fake intelligence on weapons of mass destruction? Israel.
Yep. As laundered through the New York Times.
Yep. So now, wait, where's the hope? Now look at the media. Now CNN, MSNBC, we just had a conversation 10 minutes ago about how they're becoming irrelevant.
Yeah, who cares?
Right? They went from the gods of the universe, right, getting to set the narrative, and you want an Iraq war, we're going to give you an Iraq war, right? You want subsidies, we're giving you subsidies. You want to end negotiating prices, we're going to end negotiation of prices. And we're not going to say no one's allowed to say that's anti-capitalist, anti-free market. No one's allowed to say anything outside of these tight rules. How do you know that? Well, I said things outside of those tight rules and they said, you got to go, right? And they do that. They did it to Dylan Radigan. They did it to you. They do it to everyone. But now the podcasts have swarmed them.
Yeah.
Now we're larger than them. So now that we're larger than them, the dynamic has changed. So the left and the right didn't abandon Israel for good cause, excellent cause. They didn't abandon them for no reason. They abandoned them because mainstream media does not dominate anymore. If there were no online media, nobody would have heard about any of the terrible things they did.
None of it.
So here, I'll give you one fact that's startling. We can talk about the incredible amount of deaths and the children who died, and they killed more journalists than the rest of the conflicts in the world combined.
Hundreds of journalists.
Over 250 journalists, okay? Yep. Some of them assassinated, including an American journalist.
Oh, I know.
This was October 7th. Bashreen Abu Akleh is an American journalist.
Oh, shot with scoped rifles at a distance wearing a press. I don't even like journalists that much, but that's such an atrocity. I can't believe it happened.
Yeah, we know, even the New York Times and CNN was like, yeah, that's an assassination. Shot from hundreds of yards away. Sniper, make sure to get him in the neck. Doesn't hit the vest. Doesn't hit the helmet and kills him. Okay. So Jamal Khashoggi, when he was killed by the Saudis, that became an enormous story. Good. I don't want anybody chopped up. That's a Washington Post columnist. That was crazy, and they got condemned, and they should. Israel assassinates an American journalist. They're like, oh, who cares? Wait, did the person get arrested? Who shot her? Who gave the order? Have we asked for extradition of that person?
Oh, I know.
Nothing. Zero.
And supposedly American commentators celebrate Rachel Corrie with some lefty girl. Gets run over by a bulldozer. I don't know that I agree with Rachel Corrie on much, but she's an American, I think from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
She's a girl.
Yeah.
And she gets killed. And Ben Shapiro's like, well, don't stand in front of bulldozers. It's like, I don't know. That's your fellow American. Don't you care that a foreign country murdered an American? No, it's her fault.
One of the guys who was delivering food got killed.
Oh, yeah.
I think Jacob Flickinger, if I'm not mistaken. You could again look up his name. But, no consequences. No one arrested. No one goes to jail. But you murdered him. You murdered an American. You murdered 9 Americans. No. Shouldn't there be consequences? But these days, now, the ultimate fact I was going to get to is, so how do you tell if a group is a terrorist organization? They target civilians. How do you know they target civilians? Because they have a very high civilian kill ratio. So, for example, Hamas on October 7th, they killed civilians and military. They killed hundreds of military guys, but they killed more civilians. 67% of the people they killed were civilians. Yeah. So, terrorist group. Clear, obvious.
That's terrorism.
That's terrorism. Okay. In Gaza, Israel's civilian kill ratio is 83%. It is worse than Hamas. In fact, it is worse than any terrorist organization in the world. 83%. And at scale, tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of people killed, 83% civilians. They say, no, you have to apply that label unevenly and unfairly. You only apply it to our enemies, but if we do worse than them, you are not to ever say it. And that figure, by the way, comes from the Israeli press. The Israeli press is way better than the American press.
I've noticed.
Yeah, you know why? Because they can't call them anti-Semites.
Right, that's totally right.
Right? So they can't end the career of anyone who criticizes Israel because they're all Israelis, right? But here in America, if you report the same thing, you're going to be called an anti-Semite, and they're going to try to get you fired, shut you up, and ruin your life.
Yeah.
So that is why
I'm not playing along. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's my point about hope. No one on TV has ever said what the Israeli press has reported, that Israel has an 83% civilian kill ratio. In IDF is basically a terrorist organization. And they have killed 70 times the number of people Hamas has killed, and they've killed more civilians as a percentage. But we're forced to fund that terrorist organization. But no one on TV will ever tell you that, because if they do, they know that they are risking getting fired. And so I talked to Ryan Grimm from Dropsite News about this just a couple of days ago on our show. We do Young Turks from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern every day on YouTube. Then at 8 p.m., we're doing a show called Revolution. Okay? Peaceful, nonviolent, political revolution. So you must take power away from them. If you don't take power away from the lobbies, then you're forever going to be their servants.
Of course.
Right? Now, you could do that in dumb ways like violence, but that's not going to work, and it's immoral. Or you could do that through the way that our founding fathers designed, through democracy, right? Take their power away at the voting booth. Primaries are golden. Go do primaries, and that's why mainstream media hates us. So, but Ryan's on, and I go, hey, Ryan, you guys have done these brilliant stories connecting Epstein to intelligence. There's no question about it. Has anyone followed up from mainstream media, New York Times, et cetera? He's like, no, not at all. And he said, look, we're going through a cache of emails that are actually public. They can actually beat us to the scoop. And I tell our competitors, beat us to the scoop, and they won't do it. They won't do it. So then we got into a conversation, why won't they do it? He said, look, I totally agree with him. There's no grand conspiracy. There's no memos written. But every reporter in DC knows that if you do a story on Israel, even if it's 100% factual, you're risking your career.
You want your kids to get into college, as James Carville said? That's exactly right. Well, you found out. You want your kids to get into high school? No, can't get into high school now. That happened to you.
Yeah.
I've seen very similar things. And so, yeah, that's intolerable. I have a pretty high tolerance for a corrupt ruling class. I think every ruling class is corrupt to some extent, but I have zero tolerance for humiliation, unnecessary humiliation, and for cruelty to people's families. Zero tolerance. Just never accept that. And that's what's happening now. And cruelty to the families is really, and you shouldn't be surprised. Look what they're murdering all these kids in Gaza. You think they, have different attitudes, not American attitudes at all.
So the naivete is something we were also taught by mainstream media, right? Oh, what the government says is true. And if you disagree with what the government says, you're a conspiracy theorist. Wait, that presupposes that the government never lies. Not just the U.S. government. No government ever lies. Israel never lies. Turkey never lies. Nobody ever lies. Okay.
No.
That has not been my experience.
No.
Okay.
Nor mine.
Right. Number two, they say, if you say the government is lying, you're a wacko,
you're immoral.
Crazy, you're immoral, and you should be banned from media. You should be canceled, right? So that way, There's no voices to oppose the government inside of media and press and journalism.
But as they oppress the population, so like you go, I've been in a million monarchies in my life, and some of them are well run and others are not. But in the well run ones, you can say, well, there's no freedom. You cannot let it criticize the king. Okay. But which I'm opposed to. I'm American. I have a totally different frame. However, if the country's well run and the people are prosperous and happy and they think that their children will have better lives than they do, at least you could say, well, we're doing a good job for the people here. But if you run a government that systematically oppresses the people so thoroughly that their life expectancy drops, and then you say you're not allowed to say a word about my leadership, that can't stand. Like that doesn't have a long lifespan. That's too much. Like nobody can handle that, right?
And that's where we are.
Oh, I know.
And so that's why now when the podcasters, and it's not just you and me, right? You got Tim Dillon and Theo Von, and everyone is now speaking up and saying, no, enough. No mas. And so I noticed the Americans they killed. I noticed the 20,000 kids they killed. I noticed all the civilians they killed. And I noticed the Congress that they bought. And I noticed that the media is in their pockets. The Congress is obvious. They literally get paid to support Israel, let alone whatever, other interesting, material they might have from Epstein or whoever else. Right. And now I see the media. So now I see this is an awesome development, Tucker. Not just saying, hey, I'm done with Israel or I'm done with money in politics. And that's my number one issue. Israel is just a symbol. Money in politics is the cancer. That's why we lost our democracy. That's why we lost control of our government, because they're just working for the people, bribing them. It's super obvious.
Israel is a symptom. It's not the cause of all this stuff.
Exactly. So, but layered on top of all that, the thing that gives me the greatest hope is that people are beginning to see the illusion. Oh, they're getting us to fight one another. Okay. What are the culture wars? What is identity politics? So as a lot of the left was doing identity politics, we're a lone voice, the Young Turks, very much in favor of Bernie, very as left as it gets, and the biggest show on the left for a long, long time, right? But we're saying don't do identity politics.
Exactly.
Okay. Why? Because identity politics splits us apart.
Exactly.
Okay. So now you've got to get past that, and people are beginning to get past it.
And it creates conflicts that can't be resolved. Like you and I are mad at each other. Our kids are mad at each other. Our grandkids are mad at each other. Like these are not fixable problems. If you have tribal conflict, it can endure for centuries or longer. Can I say one thing I think is super important is that you can't allow people to force you to lie ever. And you will lie, inevitably, and you will say things that are wrong unintentionally. I've done both. But allowing somebody to force you to say something you know is not true destroys you as a person. And I could name many people, but Mike Huckabee I've known for over 30 years, almost 35 years, because I worked in Arkansas at the newspaper, and he's a completely different person. Completely. That's a broken man. And I say that with heartfelt compassion. That's a guy who's allowed other people to steal his integrity and force him to lie, and you become a husk. And no man can live like that. It's a 1984 Winston Smith thing. Like once you say 2 + 2 = 5, you're broken inside. Like don't allow people to force you to lie. And just need to say that.
Yeah, gaslighting is almost a industrial version of torture.
Like it is. It totally is. It strips your dignity from you.
Yeah. So on the left, you got Fetterman and Richie Torres that are like that. On the right, you got Huckabee and Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz. And notice, they told us to fight each other, but they seem to agree an awful lot.
Well, these are not happy people either. They paid a huge cost. So they all think they're getting something out of this, and whatever they think they're getting, I can't even imagine. Or they're afraid of threats or whatever. But in the end, they lose. When you allow other people to treat you like a slave and to repeat their lies, you are destroyed, and you have to live with that for the rest of your life. Don't ever take that deal.
Tucker, let me give you one more analogy that clarifies that.
Yes.
So it's like a movie where they tell you, hey, you know what? Your wife came in with this baby that she found, and it's a victim, and you guys are going to adopt it. And she's so golden-hearted, and she brought the kid home. And you go, okay, great, let me see the kid. And a guy walks in and goes, here, first I got to give you some glasses. Okay. And he gives you glasses, and you put them on, and you go, oh my God, what a cute kid.
I have no idea where this analogy is going, but I love it.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm totally wrapped up in it. Okay.
Yeah. So, and your wife is nursing the kid and feeding it, etc. And then one day you go, I wonder what things look like without the glasses. And the guy who gave you the glasses goes, no, don't take the glasses off. Don't take the glasses off. Now you're like, wait a minute. Now I really want to take the glasses off. Right? And you take the glasses off and you find out the glasses were the illusion. It's not a baby. It's a grown man.
Ooh.
And he's been inside your house the whole time.
Chewing on your wife.
Cuddling with your wife.
No.
Taking your money. He's got like almost a half shirt on, big belly, hairy guy. He's sitting on your couch with your wife.
Suckling.
Okay. Suckling. It turns out the glasses were the thing that made you see it wrong. It made it seem like it was an innocent victim, a little baby you were taking care of. Now you find out you got a grown man inside your house.
Pawn on your wife and draining your checking account.
Now, the question is, who are you most mad at? Okay. I'm the least mad at the guy. First, though, the first action I'm going to take, even though I'm the least mad at him, is you got to leave. You got to leave the house right now. Otherwise, something terrible is going to happen. The
man-child.
Yes.
Who's sucking on your wife. Okay. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Okay. First step is get the fuck out of my house. Okay. Second guy I'm mad at is the guy who gave me the glasses.
Yeah.
What the fuck? You made it seem like it was an innocent victim, and I was being a good guy by helping this entity. Okay. And now I find out, no, it was just someone taking advantage of me.
Yes.
And taking the person who was supposed to be closest to me, that was supposed to have trust with me.
Yes.
And taking all my money, and you played me for a fool. I fucking hate the guy with the glasses, right? But the person I'm most upset
is the betrayer.
The wife in that case. It's an uncomfortable analogy. You could switch it to husband and wife. That's not the point. The point is, yes, if you don't get it by now, whether it's Israel or any really lobby, any donor class, that's the baby. The guy with the glasses is the media saying, oh no, these poor little oil companies, they need your money. Look at it. It's a victim. Otherwise, they can't drill for oil. These drug companies, they've only made trillions. You can't let them negotiate prices, right? Or it's Israel. Oh, it's an innocent victim of all the nasty Muslims and terrorists around them. And then you look at the map. Wait a minute. Israel has gained all this territory, and they've done it by taking $300 billion from us. But most importantly, the wife is the politicians.
Yes.
And they're supposed to represent us. And they have betrayed us. Okay. And I can't stand it.
It's time for a divorce.
It's time for a divorce. So everyone's got to get out of the house. First, the hairy guy, you got to go. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to have trouble. Then the guy with the glasses. And then finally, the wife. Everybody's got to go. We're going to get a fresh new start. OperationConsequences.com. Okay.
I literally could do this interview for 10 hours and never improve on that analogy. So I want to end with that. That was amazing. Oh, that was, I'll wake up thinking about that in a cold sweat. Thank you. That was amazing.
Thank you, Tucker. I appreciate it.